Helene Rodger is a co-founder of fintech company Moneymatix. Their two products, Kuza Cash and Kuza Learn, are designed to help kids and adults gain financial literacy. So Helena, great to have you today. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, for sure. So my name is Helene Rodger. I'm based out here in Scotland. And like you have introduced me, I run a fintech company and it's called Moneymatix. We have two products in Moneymatix, Kuza Lan, and Kuza means is a Ugandan word. So I'm originally from Uganda, even if I live in Scotland. Kuza is a Ugandan word meaning to grow or to nurture or to transform. So our two products are Kuza Lan, which is a workshop style learning, teaching of financial education. And then Kuza Cash is the app. It's a financial goal setting app. That's where we're starting at. And that's just basically to bring parents and children together to learn about money, to interact and bring the financial conversations back to the living room. Because what I found when I moved to Scotland is that many people don't actually talk about money. Now, if you don't talk about something, how do you learn from it without having conversations? So our really mission is to transform lives by creating financially literate communities, but then also to bring financial conversations back to the living room. I am a mom with 3 beautiful babies, and I think that's my number one job. And then Moneymatix is my number 2 job.
So how do you actually bring those conversations into the living room through the training and the materials that you provide?
So I guess just a little bit of background. We started by teaching children how to manage money, learning about the journey of money. If you had £10, for example, how do you apportion that money? Do you just go and use all the money in the shop, buy sweets, or do you put some away for a rainy day? Do you spend some? Do you give some money to charity as well? So that children start to understand, what to do with money. So once we started helping children, we really found that parents had to be involved, because children are monkey see, monkey do. So when they see what you're doing at home, you have children yourself. So it's very easy to see what a child is doing. And you're like, actually, that's me. They are emulating what I'm doing and how I'm doing things. So we thought, let's bring the children together and the parents, because as we did the workshops, we found that there was no practice happening at home. So we thought, how do we bring the parents and children together so that we're not getting lost in translation? It's like learning French at school. If you learn a different language at school and you come home and there's no practice, there's no speaking, it's very easy to either forget that language or not to do it at all or to lose it whatsoever. So we thought, if we teach the kids and we bring it back to the living room, I think that would be a great way to get parents and children interacting. And here in Scotland, parents are they don't talk about money. I mean, I was surprised, like husband and wife do not talk about money. Some people have a different bank account, and that's okay. That works for different people. But I think when it comes to parenting, we have to be really singing from the same hymn sheet. And when it comes to financial education, I think it's important that we have parents and children working together. Like I was saying earlier, financial services are changing. You probably used to get hard cash, and then you would go to the shop and you're like, okay, I've got £2, I can spend £1 and I've got £1 left. Now it's very different, because parents are tapping cards, they're swiping, they're taking money out of machines, and children don't understand. And if we're not talking about it, if we're not talking about those conversations, this is money that I have earned. It will be transferred onto a card, and then that is the money we use for our day-to-day use at home. So basically what we're trying to do is facilitate those conversations, make it easier, make it comfortable for parents to be able to talk to their children about money.
So let's say, like the example we had earlier, kids says to their mom or dad, I want to have a phone. How would you bring that conversation, and what would you do to change their behavior?
So if a child wants something, so what Kuza Cash is doing at the moment is we're starting from a point where they actually really need things or want things. You know, we don't want to go with the the lesson of don't do that, don't do this, you can't have that, you can't have this. So we would ask, so what do you want? In our books, that is a teachable moment. If you tell me you want a phone, that is a conversation starter for me to say, okay, so you want an iPhone X, whatever, that's going to cost this amount of money. Now, as a family, that's a lot of money to just put out £800 or whatever it is that phone costs. So it's an opportunity for a parent to sit down and talk about it, number one. So that's financial conversations. But number two, you can help your child to achieve this goal because it's something they really want. So you start thinking about, okay, so my 11-year-old builds websites, for example. He's learned that skill, and he wants, when he wants things, I'm telling him also, we have to find a customer and then do that, and then you have to get what you want that way. But then also other kids can walk a dog. They can, some people pay at home for children to do chores. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer on how kids, but that's teaching them the ethics of earning money, so that when they go in the real world, they will start to understand, okay, so before I buy something like this, I have to earn it and I have to value it. Because you find parents half the time, they are going to the shops, buying, using credit because they're feeling guilty, or they're feeling like, oh, I don't want my children to be left out. And they're going to the shop buying things that they can't afford because they want to give children the life that maybe they didn't have, or the social media life that they can see. Everybody's got this, so my kids have got to get it. So how do we help these people not to feel bad, to get things they want, plan for them, and make sure that they happen for the kids? So our simple way of teaching kids is from things that they really want. So you want a bike, you want a phone. How do we sit down as mom and dad and you, and help you to earn it, to learn it, to manage it, to value it as well? Because I don't know, if I go to the shops with my kids and I'll say to them, they'll pick things, right? And I'll say, well, you're paying for that. And suddenly it feels like that's a lot of money to pay. But because I was paying for it, it was okay for you to pick everything. Do you get what I'm talking about? So you start to see children learning, so I can't have that because it's my own money. So they actually start to value things more, because they've earned it and they've bought it with their own money, of course, with a little help from mom and dad, from grandparents, from aunties. So that's what we advocate for, and that's how we help children learn more about money.
So the parents are the ones that are then still driving the change for the kids, because they're the ones that the children are following. How do the parents change then in this after they've been through your training?
So it's very hard, as parents, we're set in our ways sometimes, so it's very hard. But I think it takes a couple of times, a couple of conversations, and when you're in a group setting, for example, and you think, actually, I'm not that bad, like, oh, so and so does this and so does that. So it's very easy to think that you're alone, or you're doing something wrong. But when you hear about other people's experiences and you say, actually, that mom pays pocket money, that child walks the dog, and my child doesn't do that, but if they can get £1 here and 50 pence there to make it up, So it's really hard sometimes to get parents out of their shell. But once you do that, once they start to get comfortable and have the conversations, it's much easier, because sometimes as parents, we don't have a lot of money going about. And that can be embarrassing. It's like, oh, how do I tell my kids I don't have enough? But it's perfectly fine, because children learn and understand that. We actually found if you talk to your kids, they start to understand and are less demanding. If they know, well, this week my mom and dad don't have as much money, they start to think, well, I'm not going to ask for whatever. But it's not because you don't want to give your kids what they want or what they need, but sometimes you're short, and children understand that, and it's much easier for them to start thinking, okay, so I'm not going to put my mom on pressure because they've said to me they don't have, rather than throwing tantrums in the aisle of the supermarket because you want something. So it's very difficult sometimes, but a few conversations, hearing other people's experiences, talking about it. When you talk about things, it gets much, much easier. It's much easier to start talking about it. It's like anything, mental health, God, even talking about God. It's sometimes in this society, it's very difficult, because people are like, oh, no, 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 I went to church as a child. But it's just those lived experiences to say, actually, God has come through for me. This is how, and they think, oh, so I get it. So it gets easier the more you talk about it.
That's really interesting. So changing tack a little bit, what is the single thing that has moved your career forward the most?
Sorry, say that again.
What is the single thing that has moved your career forward the most?
I would say the single thing that has moved my career forward is having a good network around me. So as I said to you earlier, so I'm part of a fellowship. It's called the Saltire Fellowship. And being immersed in the ecosystem, in the business community, there's always someone willing to help. There's always someone trying to introduce you to something, someone, somewhere. So I strongly believe having a good network. In fact, don't they say your network is your net worth? So having a good network has really helped to scale, to scale our business or move our business forward.
Right. So you're a social being, and that's really good. And I guess that also probably why your workshops and things also quite well attended, probably a matching of your skill set again there with people. And then what single thing has moved your relationship with God forward the most?
I think my relationship with God has improved in a way, because when you start a business, you're taking a leap of faith. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. But if you're in purpose and you know that I'm doing this because it's my ministry, it's not total trust, and having God do things for you. Like you sometimes don't know. So we're building a technology app. It takes long and long and long cycles before you start making money. So you're in a place where you are blind. You don't know what's going to happen, but you still go on your knees and say, God, I know you've talked about this. I know you've called me to do this. I'm going to do it. And I know you've got my back. So you've got to make it happen for me. So simple things like the other day, I was going to a really big meeting and I'm running late. And I'm like, God, I can't be late. I cannot be late. And I was in time. Everything worked out well. But I made roadworks on the way and there was traffic on the way. So I thought, oh, God, I can't be late at all. So I started to pray in the car and I started to say, God, I just need you to open the lights, open the cars up. I can't be late for this meeting because it's very important. And you know what? After all the adrenaline and all the driving and all the, I realized that every light I got to was a green light. So I didn't have to stop. I had to stop for 5 minutes in traffic. But every traffic light that I came to was a green light, and that was God. It can't have been anything else. But it's having that total trust and thinking God's got my back in everything that I'm doing. So I guess your faith grows when you're in business, because it's not like you're not going to get a paycheck at the end of the month. Like, I'm waking up, going to my 9 to 5, and I'll get my salary at the end of the month, and it's going to work out. So I guess running a business has changed my relationship with God in a way that I'm more trusting, and I have much more faith. And of course, you get down days, you get days that God, I need you to come through, and it doesn't work out. But I've learned to tell myself that if God says no to something, he has a reason. He's not going to say no to me, because actually the Bible says you're not going to ask him for bread and he's going to give you a stone. So I totally get it. And I don't, beat myself up so much that, oh my goodness, God, that didn't happen because whatever. I know that if God says no, if that did not go through, God is really actually trying to either save me from something or protect me from something. So he has a reason why I didn't get that contract, or why I didn't get that deal.
Okay, that's good. And then how can people help you to touch the lives of others?
So how can people help me to touch the lives of others? First of all, by liking my pages. Go and find us, Kuza Land, Kuza Cash, Moneymatix. Follow us on Twitter. Learn from us. We give a lot of value on our pages. We're starting an online course. But the most important thing for me is, if you learn something from me, my business partner, and what we do, if you learn anything from us, just pass it on. Just pass it on to someone else, because knowledge doesn't have a sell by date. It doesn't have an off date. The more you pass on knowledge, the more you help people, the more people learn, the much better for the world. When it comes to financial education, it's quite a sensitive subject sometimes. It can be confusing for many people, when some people are talking about now Bitcoin, this and that, all that's financial services, and you can get overwhelmed with it all. So we try to simplify information as much as possible. But if you get it, and if you get that skill or that knowledge base, pass it on to a child, pass it on to your neighbor, pass it on to your friends, and that we can make a better world by giving knowledge and information to other people. That's how you can help us to create impact, really.
Okay, and I will put those links below the video for people to be able to become part of your network, I guess. Yeah, so just thank you for your time today, Helena. Is there anything else you want to tell people that are watching?
Oh, well, I think just we're doing some workshops now. I know there's people all over the world, and it's kind of really difficult to say that come to our workshops. But the thing that we're going to do in the near future is an online course. So we're going to do an online course that's very child friendly. You can work through it with your child as a parent, or if as a parent you're not very confident with teaching your child about money, or you're not confident with money generally, it will be a good starting point for people to learn about money and be part of our community.
Well, my son's only 6, so maybe it's a good time to start talking to him about that. Yeah,
absolutely. It's never too early. As long as they start asking for things in the shops, they're ready to learn about money.
Good. Yeah. So that's a good point to trigger it. Thank you so much for your time today, Helena, and encourage everyone to obviously follow you and to check out your stuff, your work.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thanks, Helena. Bye.